Namaskar. Welcome to the first episode of the new webinar series by SPJIMR called Social Sector Samvaad. The Social Sector Samvaad is the first series of webinars to disseminate relevant knowledge to help build the capability of not-for-profit entities. It will feature insightful conversations with social sector experts about new developments, about wise innovation practices, and challenges in the social sector. इस वेबिनार श्रृंखला का आयोजन SPJIMR में सेंटर फॉर इनोवेशन इन सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट CISD इसके द्वारा किया जा रहा है, जिसका उद्देश्य सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट यानी सतत विकास को प्रदर्शित करने वाले नए ज्ञान और शोध का प्रसार करना है। इसके साथ एक दूसरा उद्देश्य भी है, वो ये कि सामाजिक क्षेत्र में क्षमता के विकास में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान देना, खास तौर से छोटे और मध्यम साइज के गैर सरकारी संगठन के लिए। In the launch episode, I'm delighted to host Chet Jainn, the founder of Crowdera Foundation, and discuss on a topic that has gathered great attention in India, especially over the last couple of years. Why NGOs should have a digital presence and how can digitization help them in fundraising. And I'm delighted to have you present to listen to Chet today. Chet is a serial entrepreneur and an accomplished technology executive from Silicon Valley with over 23 years experience in the software industry. He is the founder and CEO of Crowdera, an enterprise software as a service platform that offers AI-powered fundraising technology infra and corporate giving tools for the charitable giving and philanthropy sector. Besides Crowdera, Chet is an advisor to multiple startups and communities. He has also founded multiple social impact initiatives like the Giving Economy Movement and the Giving Economy Changemaker Awards, No Pay Startups, and of course, Crowdera Foundation. Chet is an electrical engineer and has attended multiple management programs with the Stanford Continuing School. Welcome, Chet.
Thank you for having me, Prabhat.
Just a quick mention about how we are going to be taking your questions. Please put them on the chat and we'll be monitoring and picking up the ones which have the greatest level of interest. If for some reason your question is not taken up today, or if you think of a question later, please feel free to write to us. The email of CISD will be flashed on the chat box, and we'll make our best efforts to get back to you with the right answer in a very short time. Let's now move to the questions. Chet, इसके पहले जब हमने चर्चा की थी, तब आपने मेरे साथ दुनिया के कई हिस्सों में एनजीओ की संख्या और प्रपोर्शन इसके बारे में बताया था। ये जो आंकड़े थे, ये काफी चौंकाने वाले थे। ऐसे एनजीओ जिनकी डिजिटल उपस्थिति नहीं है, डिजिटल प्रेजेंस नहीं है, भारत में यह स्थिति अगर बदतर नहीं तो उतनी ही खराब है। क्या आप इन संख्याओं के बारे में थोड़ा हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को बताएंगे? पहले दुनिया के बारे में और उसके बाद कुछ भारत के बारे में, और इसके बाद ये भी आप बताएं कि एनजीओस के लिए डिजिटल उपस्थिति या प्रेजेंस ये क्यों जरूरी है और इसके ना होने की वजह से क्या खामियां हो सकती हैं। और इसका क्या असर होगा अगर हम लोग एनजीओ सेक्टर में डिजिटाइज ना करें? चेत।
Thank you, Prabhat. So everyone, you'll have to excuse me. My voice is a little shaky today because of a recent cold. And I'm also going to try to shift between Hindi and English. So Prabhat, आपकी तरह बहुत प्रॉपर हिंदी में शायद ना बोल पाऊँ जितने अच्छे शब्दों में आपने डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी को प्रेजेंट किया है, बट I'll try and combine words from wherever I can. But I think the topic आपने जो छेड़ा है वो बहुत ही important topic है. हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में आंकड़ों को अगर देखा जाए तो वैसे तो चैरिटीज बहुत ज्यादा है. वो 3.5-3.5 मिलियन के ऊपर, मतलब 30-32 लाख के ऊपर में एक नंबर बताया जाता है. हालांकि स्ट्रक्चर डेटा नहीं है, लेकिन कहा जाता है कि इसमें से एटलीस्ट एक 1.5 मिलियन के आसपास की वाकई में काम करने वाली चैरिटीज है. फिलैंथ्रोपीज भी है, स्कूल्स भी है, बहुत सारे हैं. लेकिन इस डेटा को अगर हम लोग इंटरनेट पे ढूंढने की कोशिश करें तो एक बहुत बेसिक प्राइमरी रिसर्च पे इंडिया में तो दिक्कत हमें दिखती ही है. और लगता है कि हम लोग एज्यूम भी कर लेते शायद इंडिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया, अफ्रीका में ये होगा. लेकिन जब हम लोगों ने कुछ रिसर्च करी थी 2020 कोविड के समय, दैट वाज इन द यूएस, कनाडा, सिंगापुर, एंड वेरी सरप्राइजिंगली डेटा फॉर कनाडा was 60% चैरिटीज जिनको हमने रीच आउट किया था, मतलब जितना चैरिटीज रीच आउट किया था, the result was surprisingly that 60% charities do not even care if they have digital identity. And we are talking about humongous number. And the case is not much different with the US market as well. Of course, US में IRS के पास में जिनके पास 501c3 सर्टिफिकेशन है, उनका डेटा डला हुआ है. लेकिन क्या इन लोगों की आइडेंटिटीज, क्या इनकी वेबसाइट्स अवेलेबल है? नहीं है. तो स्ट्रक्चर डेटा तो ग्लोबली कहीं नहीं है, बट एक अनुमान ऐसा लगाया जा सकता है विद सम प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी रिसर्च that we are talking about in the developed world, like Western world, we are talking about over 50-60% charities not being digitized at all. And India, I am, not really surprised, because I think India lives in the rural, India's heart is in the rural part of the country. Charities, over 90% charities, I believe, do not have any digital identity. हालांकि काफी सारा एफर्ट्स लगाया जाता है, बहुत सारी चीजें हो रही है, बट इंडिविजुअल कैपेसिटी में काफी कुछ होता रहता है. लेकिन एट द ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल स्ट्रक्चर्ड अप्रोच में ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इनके पास में कुछ नहीं है. वो दीज आर ऑल थिंग्स इन बिट्स एंड पीसेस. नाउ व्हेन यू लुक एट थिंग्स फ्रॉम दिस पर्सपेक्टिव, आज चैरिटीज को जब ड्यूरिंग द कोविड टाइम, राइट, चैरिटीज केम आउट. सो बहुत सारी चैरिटीज और एनजीओज जो हिंदुस्तान में ऑपरेट करी थी, इनकी वजह से बहुत सारा सर्वाइवल बहुत सही तरीके से हुआ. और उस वजह से लोगों को पता चला कि चैरिटी एक इंडस्ट्री भी है जहां लोगों को रिक्वायरमेंट्स होती है, उनकी नीड्स है. लेकिन आज अगर आप देखें हिंदुस्तान के अंदर किसी भी चैरिटी से आप बात करें तो एक ही शब्द सुना जाता है, कॉर्पोरेट. कॉर्पोरेट से फंडिंग लेनी है, गवर्नमेंट से ग्रांट लेनी है. इसके अलावा कोई नॉलेज इन लोगों को होता नहीं है. सेकेंड, ये लोग जब जाते हैं तो सिर्फ एक चुनिंदा बहुत selected set of amazing charities are there in India which are doing really good work, but only they have access to this kind of approach, a modern way of reaching out, outreach, creating their digital identity, putting their impact reports. So having access to that corporate funds is very limited. And if you go back to the bottom of pyramid, I'm talking about the pyramid of charity industry right now. The middle and the bottom of the pyramid, when we talk, they have no knowledge, no awareness about how do they have to, reach these modern methods. There is a lot. I think during this session, we'll cover a lot. I won't like to dive deeper into all the sessions right away. We can go one question at a time. But there are many pointers that we'll touch during today's thing. For example, the disparity between retail fundraising and corporate fundraising, how retail should be much higher and corporate should be much lower, why it is different, versus what really means by digital identity. Digital identity का असली मतलब क्या है? And why is it required in today's age and time? And किस क्षमता तक, किस हद तक, to what extent do you think digital penetration should happen into the charity space? कितना digitization की आपको जरूरत है? तो वो सारी चीजों को भी हम लोग आज ये करेंगे. तो Prabhat, if you'd like, I am happy to kind of dive deeper into the extent of digital identity, what is the size of digital identity, or we can jump to the next question.
Sure. Maybe we will come back to the part that you spoke about. So thank you about sharing the picture with regard to some of the developed world. It's actually very, very surprising that despite this day and age, there are as many people without a digital identity even there. And as you rightly mentioned, given that a lot of the NGOs in India are really in the rural sector, the number is obviously going to be very high. Having said that, the last 2.5 years during COVID, this has obviously had a very significant impact upon the social sector as a whole and NGOs in particular. In your view, what are some of the most important learnings for NGOs to emerge from this difficult 2.5-year period? And how would you link digitization and digital transformation to some of these findings and learnings?
So I think one of the biggest learnings during the COVID period was the organizations realized their own value. I think the first important piece was, unfortunately, the NGO sector globally was considered as somebody, excuse my language that I'm going to use, but people used to claim them as they're ready with a begging bowl. And I used to hate when somebody used to say that. I was like, these are the organizations that are trying to make a difference in this society, trying to, keep the life on this planet in a balanced, keeping the purpose balanced. So it was the other way around. The perception was about an opportunity to give, an opportunity to partner with these charities, these organizations who are actually trying to make something good in the society. That has happened. Things that could not happen for the last several decades has happened during the COVID. So people have understood. Second, leverage of social media was very well used, and not necessarily directly by the NGOs, but people who just came around to support these NGOs. But unfortunately, if we still see all of this action that we saw was in the urban side of the world. It was the rural side was still missing. It was only when the urban population was trying to do and identify stories. So, but then this was a good story, good learning from this. Social media and digital presence in whatever shape and form was really helping these organizations. But the COVID, I should not say stop, but COVID subsided or normalized, I would say, as the COVID was normalized, so did everything else normalize. Having said that, the need for that attention, that urgency that charities used to get during COVID has been identified. I think now is the real time for organizations to really identify how they could potentially get their work to the world beyond their reach. The current reach is probably their first degree, second degree connections, maybe first degree, second degree corporations within a very limited space of time. How the power of their community can be leveraged. And I think this is where digitization can help. And when I say the word digitization, does not mean you having a social media page, right? There is a lot that social media companies are doing. At the same time, but there is a digital noise that we are looking at. The digital noise, when I say is, you're not the only one who's looking for attention in this world, right? So we have to think that we do not want to go too ahead of our current reach. We just want to see how we can amplify our existing reach to a certain extent so our needs of unrestricted funds are met, our capacity building is met, where we could really get beyond survival mindset and get to the mindset of abundance for ourselves and the causes that we are talking about. So this could be confusing, but let me just simplify this thing, tone it down. So what I mean is, yes, there are a lot of organizations wanting to have digital identity. Let us say सभी ने एक वेबसाइट बनानी है, सभी ने सोशल मीडिया पेजेस बनानी है, लेकिन आपको रीच करने के लिए क्राउड फंडिंग प्लेटफॉर्म्स के पास जाना है, एड्स लगानी है ना. This is not easy. This is an expert level work. A lot of people have to infuse capital in that. उसको सीखने के लिए समय लगता है और इतना आसान नहीं होता वॉलंटियर्स को भी इकट्ठा करना. बट आसान क्या है, इसको देखते हैं हम लोग. अगर हम लोग अपने ही रीच को देखते हैं, अगर हमारे पास एक बहुत बेसिक सी सिंपल सी वेबसाइट है, जिसमें हमारे पास कोई भी अगर बंदा आता है, कोई भी कॉरपोरेशन आती है जो इंफॉर्मेशन छोड़ के जा सके, डोनेशन दे के जा सके, या कोई अगर हमारे साथ जुड़ना चाहता है और हमारे लिए कुछ आगे बढ़ना चाहता है, अपनी कम्युनिटी को जोड़ना चाहता है, वो कर सके। सरकार ने बहुत सारी चीजें आसान कर दी है डोनर्स के लिए पैसा देने के लिए ऑनलाइन, लेकिन चैरिटीज के ऊपर उतने ही ज्यादा रेस्ट्रिक्शंस भी है कि आपको डोनर्स का डेटा देना पड़ता है। तो क्या आप उसको मैन्युअली लोगों को इकट्ठा करने के बजाय डिजिटली ही रसीदें दे सकते हैं? क्या डिजिटली ही आपको जो गवर्नमेंट के अंदर फॉर्म्स भरने पड़ते हैं वो हो सकते हैं? तो एक बेसिक लेवल का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक चैरिटी के लिए, जिसमें वो डोनेशन रिसीव कर सके, कहीं पे भी वो फंडरेजर्स एक्टिवेट कर सके, और गवर्नमेंट इनकम टैक्स पोर्टल्स में अपनी रिपोर्ट्स सबमिट कर सकते हैं, ये एक बेसिक लेवल भी कर सके, तो दैट्स द वन लेवल ऑफ पीस। सेकेंड लेवल ऑफ पीस इन दिस पर्टिकुलर पीस कुड पोटेंशियली भी, आज हमारी जो रीच है, आज कोई भी चैरिटी अगर सर्वाइव कर रही है, either the founder is putting money by himself or with a group of people, or they have some people supporting. ट्रस्ट मी, दैट इज द रियल पावर। जो साथ में जो लोग हैं, आपकी आइडेंटिटी को आपको दुनिया तक ले जाने की जरूरत नहीं। आपकी आइडेंटिटी दो जगह ले जानी चाहिए आपको। वन इज यू हैव योर डेटा ऑनलाइन, आपके एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स जो बने पड़े हैं, आपने जो भी डोनेशन रिसीव किए वो ट्रांसपेरेंटली दिख रहे हैं, आपके प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन लगी होनी चाहिए, ताकि सरकार को भी जब स्क्रूटनाइज करना पड़े, आपको परेशान करने की जरूरत नहीं, आपकी वेबसाइट पे देख के ही कुछ कर लेंगे। एक ये हो गया रीच, सो दैट आपका काम ट्रांसपेरेंटली दुनिया के सामने है। ये बहुत सिंप्लीफाइड तरीके से होना चाहिए। दूसरा हो गया कि जो आपकी कम्युनिटी है, आप उसको कैसे एम्पावर करेंगे। आपको मदद करना चाहते हैं लोग, तो उनको आपको एम्पावर करने के लिए डिजिटल टूल्स की जरूरत पड़ती है, और आप 100 जगह जाके सब चीजें नहीं कर सकते। इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू टू नॉक 100 doors. You can't have a CRM for yourself. You can't have all different 100 social media tools. You can't put into ads. तो सिंप्लीफाई तरीके से क्या आपके डिजिटल टूल्स आपकी ही कम्युनिटी को एम्पावर कर सकते हैं? तो उस एक सोच के साथ अगर आप बढ़े, तो एक बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अगर चैरिटीज को मिल जाए, they can do wonders within the current ecosystem, because that ecosystem will give them the access to that. And with this, because they're working on a certain causes, because it is digital, right? You are indexed by Google, you will be identified. And if you are able to align yourself with the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals के साथ आप अगर अपने आप को अलाइन कर सके, which is a very easy thing to do, आपको कोई इंफॉर्मेशन लगा वो भी अगर आसानी से हो जाए, so the digital identity that I feel at today's age and time is required at this particular level for any micro or small size charity. I hope that answers your question, Prabhat.
Sure. I have a quick question related to that. But before that, I just want to go back a little bit. And while you kind of alluded to it, that during, as a result of the COVID, the requirements have become even more important. Maybe some changes in government regulations also have demanded. But would you also not agree that given that a large amount of funding, which used to come for, let us say, the more traditional causes like education and health and livelihoods, some of that actually got diverted away for forms of COVID relief. And also some funding went away, as you are aware, into PM Cares, which is again an indirect way of supporting COVID relief. Do you not think that this has actually raised an even greater need for fundraising through other ways for especially the smaller and medium-sized NGOs?
Right. So very, very important and interesting question. It was just a couple of weeks ago when we did our event in the Giving Economy Awards kickoff in Goa. And this was one of the discussions on the panel that we were having about governmental, governmental support ecosystem. And I think one is, of course, the money is going into PM Care, the money is going into all different causes. So I'll address it in two tranches. One, we all need to understand difference between charity and philanthropy and the donor persona for charity and philanthropy. To एक सिंपल भाषा में बताया जाए, देखिए डोनर दो तरीके के होते हैं। एक डोनर होता है जिससे दर्द देखा नहीं जाता, और दर्द दिखने के बाद जितना होता है अपने जेब में से देने की कोशिश करता है। तो चैरिटी इज लाइक दैट। चैरिटी इज मोर रिएक्टिव मेजर। नुकसान हो चुका है, अभी उसको कैसे भरा जाए, हाउ टू हेल्प दैट इज वेयर डिजास्टर रिलीफ, and all the charitable activities happen, right? Whereas when we come to the real important causes, which are trying to uproot the problems that future में problems ना आए, wherein for example अगर आपने एक ज्योग्राफी को पकड़ा और इनको सक्षम बनाना है, तो आज हम इनके बच्चों से ही कोशिश करते हैं कि इनको एजुकेशन सही मिले, इनको सही गाइडेंस मिले, इनका वैल्यू एजुकेशन हो, इनको वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग मिले, ताकि एक तो अपने फार्म लैंड छोड़ के ना जाए, या एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप बढ़े, या एसएमईज और आगे आए. तो दैट इज अ फिलेंथ्रोपिक वे ऑफ थिंकिंग. सो आप फ्यूचर की प्रॉब्लम्स को आज सॉल्व करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो ये दोनों डोनर अलग है. और मेरा ये जो मानना है, चैरिटी का जो डोनर होता है वो एक रेगुलर डोनर है, वो देता ही रहेगा, because when he has money he sees the problem, that problem he'll have to keep giving as long as he has it. But जो philanthropy का डोनर होता है वो चैरिटी के लिए कभी कभार ही करेगा. For example, as an individual I identify myself as a philanthropic donor. I could invest whatever time, money, energy, attention to a cause which could solve a future problem. And I could potentially maybe just take off a few dollars here and there, or support with guidance to some charity. I'm a philanthropic donor. So if I get that attention, that becomes a challenge. So, ये education अगर हम लोगों के अंदर में डालें, then I think we can build the strategies like we discussed all. But you and I always keep talking about it, right? It is not only about digitization. It is not only about the causes. It is also, it's not also about the ecosystem, governmental ecosystem, governance, right? What we have. It is also about the strategy. Every organization, depending on what they are focused on, requires a different set of strategy. So strategic support will also be required for charities. And the first strategy that I feel charities need to have is having their own fundraising strategy. Within the overall organizational strategy, they should have their own fundraising strategy. Number one, to understand what is their power, right? To understand what is the power of their community, to understand power of their cause. Now, whether they are working on a charity or a philanthropy, does not matter. So having the fundraising infrastructure at a base level is one very, very, very key. And second piece is how do they engage their community into that piece is another important piece. Now, when we say this is when the question comes, if tomorrow, there are more organizations, like there is a state CM fund, there is a PM care fund, there are many funds will keep coming. A lot of people who do not want to take, ownership of figuring out where the money is going. They want to ensure that it is transparently used. They want to park the money like a mutual fund to some particular organization. Why can't you create your identity? Everyone is like, between you and I, if we talk, there might be maybe immediate 200 odd people in the first connection who might have donated to PM Care, for example. But if we are part of an ecosystem and we know that there is something created very well, and a proper model of syndication model is created for a particular charity ecosystem or a philanthropy ecosystem, our connections would come and contribute to these causes, knowing that this would go. It is not about, impact assessment is a big word people use. I am a very big proponent of making the work happen. Assessment is important, but not as important at this point of a time, because I think if we make the things happen and if the strategy itself is done in a certain way, where we know that transparency, trust is created into the ecosystem, it's imbibed into the ecosystem, it's 100% data is visible, then we will be willing to give money more to the individual syndications rather than the larger funds.
Sure. Let me now go back to what you had said just before I asked you this particular question. As you know, small and medium-sized NGOs have limited resources, be it people or be it finance. Now, many people have the view that digitization requires deep pockets and well-qualified people, not only to oversee the initial implementation, but thereafter to manage the digital operations. Hence, digitization of small and medium-sized NGOs will remain a dream. Now, do you believe that this is a correct statement of reality? And if not, my sense is that your answer is going to be, if not in the no, then how will you convince the small and the medium-sized NGO that it is a doable proposition to go digital?
Okay, so so my answer is first yes. Honestly, again, the reason answer is yes is because of the limited information and the limited ecosystems that we have. See, let's believe that even if it is a charity industry, it is still dependent on the capitalist economy that we have right now, where everyone supporting the charity ecosystem, whoever it uh, is still running a capitalist organization in certain ways. So if a charity, when it is looking at a holistic approach of figuring out digital presence, and not just presence, but a digital infrastructure for that presence, of course, it is a mammoth task. It is a humongous task. Number one, setting up a website, ensuring their domain names are set up, ensuring payment gateways are integrated, ensuring their tickets, there is a CRM involved with that. There is a receipt management software. So it's like an ERP solution they are talking about. And yes, it is a dream for a lot of smaller organizations, and it is unfathomable at this point of a time, for sure, because it is a very, very expensive affair when you combine multiple systems. Having said that, if an organization with a philanthropic, so now, I mean, I always try and not talk about my organizations here, but I will give an example here, that where we are at this stage is we understand this problem, and this is not India's problem, this is problem globally. The idea is, how do we make this doable, this ecosystem possible for organizations? And I'll have to touch upon something World Bank has come up with. Right? World Bank has come up with a statement called financial inclusion as a, they have coined the word, and financial inclusion essentially for the world, for the entire world, access to financial tools in a very affordable price. And I think that was the need of an hour, because yes, the world is struggling. There were no, and countries like Africa now have abundance of financial tools, too many. Literally a small text-based phone can do a lot of stuff. When we look at charity ecosystem, I believe this is where the need is for a financial inclusion for charities via digital transformation is what I call. And how to make this dream a simple thing. Let's give an example. A small micro level charity wanting to go to a certain place will go to an agency, get a domain name, then somebody, WordPress guy, will put together a website, something like that, will charge X amount of money, couple thousand, whatever it is, it could be. They would integrate with a Razorpay or some payment gateway in between, and that's where they think it is done. No, it is just a page which is created with a button, but there is a lot, right? In the today's digital realm, you need to know what is the privacy, right? What data is being collected, who is collecting data, who is responsible for that particular piece. They may not be aware of that. They need help on that. Can that be templatized, right? They have volunteers, they have corporations, they have supporters who want to support them. They have many initiatives, those individual initiatives. There is a structure that is required. So that overall becomes a challenge. And that's why we came up with this thought. And I think we are very proud to say that SPJIMR CISD is associated with us in piloting the financial inclusion program. So this entire initiative of this dream, we have a dream now. I mean, Dr. King used to say, I have a dream. And I just want to change that statement a little. And I always use the word, I believe. I truly believe that if organizations like SPJIMR, people like us, students, organizations really come together, we create a framework, we can give this gift practically at no cost to people, an infrastructure that they have been dreaming about to them, and it will not be difficult for them to manage. Can it be simplified like a cakewalk, where if you can operate a Facebook, create a profile on Facebook, managing your digital identity will be as simple. If you can, write a post on Facebook, sending a note update to your people, writing in whatever language, should be as easy. So that is all doable with the financial inclusion program that we have at this point of time. And I think this dream that we are seeing together, Prabhat, of giving this digital infrastructure to these micro and small charities. It's for the world, but we want to start with India, of course. And I think that's very much doable. And trust me, everyone who's listening, it is doable. It is not much. It is very simplified. When you look at it, remove technology for 2 minutes and look at your organizations. You have picked up a cause. You have thought through. If you have not thought through, then you need some strategy support. That's one checklist. Get some strategic help. If you have thought through, you know this is the primary purpose. These are some secondary purposes. These could be divided into these programs or initiatives. These are the funds required for this, and what is the cost of calculating an impact through that at your level. You don't need a KPMG or a McKinsey to come and help you in figuring out what is going on, right? And then you essentially know this is my infrastructure. Now, the same thing that you are explaining, if it can be replicated on the digital realm, in your digital identity, आपकी digital presence में आपका website दिख रहा है, आपका purpose दिख रहा है, आपके programs दिख रहे हैं, हर program पे अलग से पैसा आ रहा है, और जो पीछे से डैशबोर्ड पे जाके कोई भी एक वॉलंटियर भी आपके लिए वो काम कर सकता है. That is possible, and I think, and everyone can be trained in this. Even a non-tech savvy person can also learn things, and within some sense, the idea is how do we bring sustainability into the process of fundraising with the digital infrastructure. That's why financial inclusion via digital transformation is to talk about. Prabhat, hope I didn't dive too deep because this is a very deeper subject. It would take a long time for us to kind of get in there.
No, I think I will still seek some more inputs from you and maybe a little bit more of Hindi this time. But before that, I just want to request the participants that now that you have a reasonably good idea about what Chet Jainn is talking about, it would be great if you could put some questions so that we could get answers from somebody who's got the kind of experience that he has of not only working in India, but in many other developed parts of the world. And he can actually contrast between what's happening there, what's happening in India, what's the scenario here, what are government policies, how are they helping, how are they possibly creating some obstacles that we have to cross, and so on and so forth. But to get back to the question, Chet, आपने जो कहा कि डिजिटल प्रेजेंस के लिए जब देखें तो बड़ी घबराहट होती है, मगर इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स नहीं है. तो ये सुनकर के एक्चुअली मेरे को एक तरह से ये बड़ा अद्भुत लग रहा है कि सीमित संसाधन होने के बावजूद एक छोटी एनजीओ, एक छोटी या मीडियम साइज एनजीओ भी इसमें शामिल हो सकती है. तो मैं ये चाहूँगा कि क्राउडेरा फाउंडेशन जो एक बहुत शानदार ऑफर दिया है छोटे एनजीओस को, वो अगर कोई सवाल पूछे कि मैं इसको कैसे इसका लाभ ले सकता हूँ, इसके लिए मुझे क्या करना होगा, कैसे मैं अपना डिजिटल प्रेजेंस बढ़ा पाऊँ, तो इसके लिए आप क्या बोलेंगे?
सो देखिए, इसके लिए छोटा सा बैकग्राउंड क्राउडेरा और क्राउडेरा फाउंडेशन दोनों का देना चाहूँगा. सो क्राउडेरा एज अ company is again working in the capitalist environment. So Crowdera is an enterprise SaaS company which builds software. एक बड़ी लार्ज ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के लिए, फिलैंथ्रोपीज के लिए, चैरिटीज के लिए सॉफ्टवेयर बनाती है और उनके पूरे इकोसिस्टम को ऑटोमेट करने के लिए, एम्पलीफाई करने के लिए पूरा इकोसिस्टम बनाया हुआ है. और ये इकोसिस्टम को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए काफी लोग, काफी पैसा, काफी सब कुछ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर लगता है रन करने के लिए. तो वो हमारा ओरिजिनल काम है इसको. लेकिन इसी को हम छोटी चैरिटीज को अगर हेल्प करना चाहे तो एज अ कैपिटलिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वो पॉसिबल नहीं होता है, बिकॉज उसमें काफी मैन पावर, समय, पैसा, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो लगता है. तो इसीलिए हमारा फाउंडेशन बनाया गया है, क्राउडेरा फाउंडेशन, जिसका पर्पस ही, प्राइमरी पर्पस इज यूएनएसडीजी अवेयरनेस, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स के अवेयरनेस के बारे में, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के बारे में और गिविंग इकोनॉमी को स्प्रेड करने के बारे में हमने शुरू किया. तो पर्पस ये है कि हमारा फाउंडेशन हमारी कॉर्पोरेट संस्थान के चैनल से कैसे लेवरेज करके वो जो सारे टूल जो हजारों डॉलर के महंगे आते हैं बड़ी चैरिटीज के लिए, उनको कम से कम प्राइस या फ्री में कैसे छोटी चैरिटीज के लिए लाया जाए। तो इसको करने के लिए एक रेगुलर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से हम लोग नहीं कर पाएंगे, बिकॉज वी आर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और हमारी रीच बहुत लिमिटेड होगी, हम हर जगह नहीं जा पाएंगे। इसलिए हमने इसको सिर्फ पार्टनर चैनल से एक्टिवेट करा है। तो हम पार्टनर चैनल्स के थ्रू, जैसे SPJIMR इज आवर पार्टनर, वेयर CISD के साथ मिलकर हम इस प्रोग्राम को एक छोटा सा पायलट यहाँ रन कर, इसी तरीके से हम काफी जगह, हमने गोवा में हमने अभी हमारा पायलट अनाउंस करा हुआ है, जहाँ पे हम बाकी एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस या गवर्नमेंटल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के चैनल से इसको आउटरीच शुरू होगा। और आपकी ज्योग्राफी में जो भी हमारा पार्टनर है, यू हैव टू रीच आउट टू देम। वो पार्टनर के चैनल से कुछ एक डेटा आपको प्रोवाइड करना पड़ेगा, जो भी आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन है। उस इंफॉर्मेशन के तहत आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का नाम, KYC पर्पस, कुछ सवाल जवाब होंगे। जो हमारे चैनल पार्टनर्स हैं, जो हमारे पार्टनर्स हैं इस फाउंडेशनल ये फिलैंथ्रोपिक इनिशिएटिव के अंदर में, वो आपसे सवाल कुछ पूछेंगे ताकि आप ही को कुछ सोच के जवाब देने पड़े, ताकि आप तैयार हो डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी के लिए। और उससे कैसे लेवरेज किया जाए, तो वो कुछ सवाल आपको देने पड़ेंगे, कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन देनी पड़ेगी। और उस इन्फॉर्मेशन को जो पार्टनर्स है, वो पार्टनर्स के वॉलंटियर्स या उनका इकोसिस्टम जो होगा वो इकट्ठा करेगा और वो हमारे पास आएगा। हम उसको प्रोसेस करके आपको एक क्राउडेरा फाउंडेशन जो है उसको प्रोसेस करके आपको एक प्रॉपर 3 tier फंड रेजिंग आर्किटेक्चर का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मिलेगा, जिसमें आपको एक वेबसाइट मिलेगी आप ही के डोमेन की, क्योंकि देखिए आपका नाम बहुत जरूरी होता है, आपके नाम से मिलेगी। तो आप अपने बिजनेस कार्ड पे लगा सकते हैं, कोई भी आप वहां पे डोनेट बटन होगी जिसमें पेमेंट सीधे आपके पास आएगा। अगर आप ATG है तो आपकी ATG रसीद लोगों को सीधे चली जाएगी। और जो भी आपने साल भर में पेमेंट किए हैं वो आप साल के एंड में रिपोर्ट पीछे से निकाल सकते हैं डैशबोर्ड से, जिसके लिए भी सपोर्ट मिलेगा। पार्टनर सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं हमारे, या आपको कोई ना कोई एक चैंपियन होगा, जो एम्बेसडर होगा, जो सपोर्ट करेगा उस चीज के अंदर में। इसके लिए वी आर प्रभात, वी आर ऑल्सो figuring out the word for what would we call the champion, right? I love the word samvad that you use for today. I think we have to find the right Hindi word. Sarthi, something like that, maybe. We can figure out something like that. So एक एम्बेसडर इवेंजलिस्ट आपको मिलेगा जो आपको सपोर्ट करेगा और आपको ट्रेन करेगा, और फ्यूचर में आपको जाके बस वही सब। तो ये होगा आपका एक बेसिक इकोसिस्टम। इसी के अंदर में आप खुद ही के क्राउड फंडिंग कैंपेन चला सकेंगे। अगर आपका रेगुलर फंड चलता है, अनरेस्ट्रिक्टेड फंड के लिए पैसा चाहिए, उसमें फंड लगा सकेंगे। ये आपका जब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन जाएगा तब आप रेडी होंगे। चाहे आप गूगल के पास, बाकी जो लोग आपको सपोर्ट करना चाहते हैं, एजेंसीज आना चाहती है, तब उन लोगों से आप सपोर्ट ले पाएंगे, क्योंकि आपकी खुद की आइडेंटिटी बनी है। आज आप किसी भी क्राउड फंडिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पे जाते हैं, चाहे वो हमारा हमारा अपना क्राउड फंडिंग प्लेटफॉर्म भी है, गो क्राउडेरा हो या केटो हो या इम्पैक्ट गुरु हो, कहीं भी जाएंगे आज उनके पास जाके, इवन गिव इंडिया, सभी के पास आप उनकी आइडेंटिटी का पार्ट बन रहे हैं। आपको अपनी आइडेंटिटी धीरे धीरे बनानी पड़ेगी, ताकि लोग आपके डोनर्स आपके पास आते रहें, हर साल आए, कुछ जाएंगे कुछ आएंगे, नए आते रहेंगे, उनके साथ आप रिलेशनशिप बनाते रहोगे, आप उन डोनर्स को कन्वर्ट करोगे। तो ये प्रोग्राम का एक्सेस कुछ फेजेस में होगा। फेज 1 में आपको आइडेंटिटी मिलेगी, और उसमें अगर आप उत्तीर्ण होते हैं, आप पास होते हैं, उस फेज को अच्छे से करते हैं, आपने डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी का इस्तेमाल किया, तो आपको फिर नेक्स्ट लेवल की ट्रेनिंग्स मिलेगी। एंड आई थिंक उस प्रोग्राम की ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन we will release, SPJIMR, CISD and Crowdera Foundation will release that information very soon. I hope it was deep enough.
Thank you. I think that was very good, because that is a logical question which somebody will have.
Of course.
Saying that, you've espoused the case for having a digital identity, but how do we actually do it?
And I think now we can do is, right now as we are here, like a lot of people are listening, if anyone needs that support, SPJIMR CISD team is already there helping. Crowdera Foundation team is already working. So if there is list of charities, we can try and send some information, and we can see how many we can accommodate in certain phases in this.
Sure. So that's a very clear offer which is coming to you from Chet Jainn, the founder of Crowdera Foundation, that for involvement and no real cost, you would actually get an identity, and you will learn how to be able to use this identity not only for letting the world know about what you're doing, but also bring about a level of transparency, and of course help you in the process of raising funds. So feel free to either write to us or to Crowdera Foundation, and we'll do our best to get you on board and take you through this journey. One of the things I must compliment to you, Chet, is that we do not have too many questions, but some of them have come in, and I think one of them you just kind of answered. Well, I don't think there is a question which Anjali is asking, that how do you categorize an organization to be small or medium? So maybe you do use some criteria. So maybe you could quickly kind of share
Sure.
that.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Anjali. So just like MSME sector has been very clearly defined, I have been strongly talking about the charity ecosystem also to be identified like that. MSMC, like micro, small, and medium charities, when we talk about them. So micro, small, small charities that I essentially would say anyone who's raising not more than like 5 to 10 lakhs a year would essentially be more like a micro level charity, where there's income donations are very less. There's no subset of numbers there, but with our experience with a lot of organizations calling a commercial organization where we cannot support and we listen to it, but we try and listen to that. So typically a founder and organization, just one person or two people running it at a tier 2, tier 3 city level would mostly be the micros that you would essentially have. Small charities are essentially, I consider all charities that raise less than 1 crore in a year. I still consider them as small charities, which is it's a substantially smaller amount of that they are doing, but could be larger for their smaller geography. Anywhere between 1 crore to 5 crores, I would call it as a medium size charity, and anything above 5 crores, it could be a large enterprise. Then sky's the limit for that. So that's my generic definition. But a specific, if a definition that I have to put together would be more than about what level of size of organization. Do you have full-time employees? I typically recommend that when you have employees which are really working for you, you're paying full-time salaries, even to the founders and executives, they become medium and large. And the rest, I would call them as small and micro. That's a very simple, basic differentiation here. And our goal is, through the foundations program that we are running, is how do we bring these micro, small charities to the medium level charities? Because ultimately, the infrastructure that you are using on the cloud, it does not come for free. Even if charities are getting it free, there is a certain cost that is incurred, which is borne by organization like ours. So eventually, as you grow, scale, get to a point, and you are able to kind of substantially grow your organization, that's when you can feed into the ecosystem and cover your cost as well. So that's, I think, the definition of that. The second question that probably I think Anjali has about social media channel, my answer to this is very simple. Honestly speaking, we all live into our small bubble. People go to the temples, so there is a temple community. People go to the churches, there is a church community. People go to playgrounds, there is a playground community. Your Facebook, your Insta, if you have really kept it tight circled, only then these channels are of any use. If you have broadened it up and sent it across, just let it grow. Spending money on that really doesn't help. Organic will certainly help. So it does not matter. I think any of the social media channels are equally good, and every subject will have a different set of audience that you would have. So my recommendation is you choose your social media, and you can't really focus on all different channels. Please understand. For each organization, each purpose, one of channel would work. You can't really work on my Twitter bhi karunga, ya main Twitter bhi karungi, mera Facebook bhi chalega, LinkedIn bhi chalega. No, it's not required that you have to go all in. I think figure out where your community is, where do they respond, where do they engage, where are they willing to do more for your purpose is something different. Change the mindset from donor outreach to fundraiser outreach. If you can do that, if your community supports that, then whatever channel helps, use that channel. It's about your story more than channel.
I think that kind of covers the question that Anuj was asking. but he is specifically saying that because LinkedIn has a very targeted kind of a niche community, do you think it is better suited for fundraising?
So again, I can talk only from my personal experiences. I have never used any of the social media channels for fundraising. If I had to personally help somebody raise money, and my mode was using a phone. Sorry, it was not visible. So my thing has been, see, please understand, let us not forget the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals? You need money for whatever it is, right? Whether it is for your startup, for your social cause, charity, medical emergency, does not matter. For your film, you have a story to tell. You know what kind of people will listen to you, right? You create list of people you think will support you, and then you can go to a level where they have access. Will they directly give, or they can take your cause further, right? You do this strategy at your level. Now, based on where your audience is, if your audience is in LinkedIn, then yes, LinkedIn could potentially help. If your audience is in Instagram, then Instagram could potentially help. But with my data, a lot of philanthropic giving could potentially be LinkedIn has been a very good tool for philanthropic cause promotion, versus for charitable cause promotions, Facebook, Instagram has done a better job. Twitter is never more like a direct thing. Now it has become a little different, but it's like when you have a Facebook or Instagram, then you tweet it, where you redirect the traffic to wherever it is. But the ultimate goal should be where is your identity? Bring people there. Whatever you use social media, I mean, any social media, but your subject, your headline is the key. If you're able to write that one headline into your fundraising campaign, in your website, into your team fundraising campaign.
Thank you. I think we could go on, but I think in the interest of time, we'll have to stop there. As has been put out in the chat, if there are any further questions you have for Chet or for CISD, please feel free to put them there, and we'll certainly get back to you in the shortest possible time. Chet, let me thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I know that it's been a difficult last few days on grounds of health, but I think you took time to come and join us and talk about something which not only provided the answers to many questions that people have, but also great insights about what's happening in India and what needs to be done, and how should NGOs look at their digital presence. I'm sure the participants have gained a lot through this interaction. I would also like to thank you and Crowdera Foundation towards this wonderful effort at helping small NGOs have a digital presence. I know we are still in the early days running pilots, but I'm quite sure that those learnings will help do this on a much larger scale. And I must convey that CISD at SPJIMR is very happy and proud to be associated with you. I'd also like to thank all the participants in this inaugural webinar of the series Social Sector Samvaad. Your participation and questions gives us great encouragement to conduct many more such webinars going forward, and to contribute towards the capability building of the social sector, which is a very important purpose for us in CISD at SPJIMR. Thank you again. Dhanyavad. Shukriya.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for kind words, Prabhat. Thank you, everyone, for showing up here. If you guys need any help, please do feel free to reach out to us via CISD or to Crowdera. Thank you.